Do you have a dream car? Mine is the Lucid Air. Are you intrigued by electric vehicles? The Lucid Air EV has been called the best driving car in the world. And the Lucid Air Sapphire is certifiably the fastest production car in the world. Listen to Lucid Driver Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts or at luciddriver.buzzsprout.com.
Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising books, comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, new release, The Joy of Cruising Again, as well as other fun, informative global cruise personalities. It's the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests. If you hear about a cruise that interests you, book it at www.thejoyofacation.com or enter to win a free cruise for two. Again, www.thejoyofacation.com. We really appreciate your feedback, so leave us a text. Paul can't reply, but he may read your text on the air.
Hello, passionate cruisers. This is Paul, and this week on the Joy of Cruising podcast, I am delighted to welcome back Jason Venner. In a section called Specialty Cruising, Fun and Quirky, I wrote about Jason in my book, Cruising Interrupted, in a chapter titled Cruise Entertainment Producer, Director, Creator, MC Extraordinaire. And Jason joined me for a podcast of that same name way back on episode 23. I am really happy to have Jason back. I finally got to meet him in person, first last year on the Soul Train Cruise 2025, and then again just a few weeks ago on Soul Train Cruise 2026. Jason is really good at what he does, and I thought I would have him back to get some insight specific to the Soul Train Cruise and hear Jason contrast it with the theme cruises of other genres he has hosted. Jason got his start in cruising in 2002 as a DJ with Holland America Line, a high-end cruise line owned by Carnival Corporation. At Holland America, Jason progressed through the ranks from DJ to over 10 years as a cruise director, to corporate trainer, to 3 years as producer and host of the joint ABC-BBC HAL production, Dancing with the Stars at Sea. Since 2015, Jason has been self-employed as a producer, director, and host of full-ship music charter cruises, primarily in partnership with StarVista Live, a leading theme cruise operator. For StarVista Live, Jason hosts Malt Shop Memories Cruise, Soul Train Cruise, the Country Music Cruise, Flower Power Cruise, Ultimate Disco Cruise, and more. Over the years, Jason has introduced and interviewed hundreds of star performers. He says it's crazy to be on a first-name basis with the legends of the music industry. Welcome back, Jason, to the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Thank you so much, sir. It's good to see you again.
How are you doing?
Busy. We're right smack. I mean, you and I are catching up right smack in the heart of our season right now. So we are all forward, all engines go at this point with charters.
Great. Appreciate that you accommodated, me in the middle of things. I am
Absolutely.
My wife and I are doing our typical Reflections podcast on Thursday. Reflections of the Joy of Cruising, not the Joy of Cruising, the Soul Train Cruise. So it would be good to have you, follow us in a week or two with some inside scoop, I hope, on the
Honored.
on the Soul Train Cruise. It's
Honored.
great to have finally met you in person.
In person, I know.
Over the last 2 years, after both writing about you and hosting you before,
Yes, sir.
and it's great to see you again virtually. Before we discuss your cruise background that I summarized in the intro, tell our listeners just a little about yourself, where you're from, where you live, anything you would like to share.
Sure. So I'm born and raised in the Pacific Northwest. I was born in Seattle, Washington, and then moved. We were not ashamed to admit that my family worked real hard, but money was not something we came by. So we actually moved out to a very small off the grid farm when I was a working farm, not a commercial farm, when I was about 3. And I was homeschooled and raised off the grid with no running water, no electricity, no nothing until I was 13, 14, and then moved into Portland, Oregon, where I've been for the last 30 some odd years, 33, 34 years. I got into cruising in general when I was coming out of college. I was coming out of college and I wanted to travel a little bit before I got a real job. I think it's probably not uncommon for a lot of folks. And I applied online to Holland America Line, one of the cruise lines. I applied online and just said, just give it a shot. Let's see what this looks like. And onward from there. I've been cruising now for 25 years. I've been an MC and a host and a producer director for almost 25 years. Obviously, I didn't start quite at that level, but yeah, it's been a journey. I'm still out here in the Northwest, still out here,
So your first cruise was as an employee?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Oh no, forgive me. My very first cruise was when I was young. I was probably 12, 13. And my grandmother took me on a Carnival cruise to Mexico. So that was my very first one. And I'll be very upfront. I don't really remember it. I don't really have good, bad memories or anything of it. It's a good time. It's fun, but I was a kid, just doing kid stuff. But yeah, by the time I wanted to apply to travel, my dad actually was the one who was like, have you ever thought about a cruise ship? And I hadn't really, because I was looking at the like the Club Meds of the world, like possibly trying to go grab a spot at a resort somewhere around the globe, just to be a towel guy or something for a few months. And my dad was the one who was like, hey man, have you ever considered a cruise ship? And I just applied randomly online and got the gig.
Continuing on with Holland America, before we discuss theme cruising and specifically Soul Train cruise, talk about where you spent the bulk of your career on the ocean, Holland America Line.
Sure.
Culminating in dancing with the stars at sea.
Dancing with the Stars. Yes, sir. So I started fresh out of college. So I think it was like 2001, maybe 2000. I started on cruise ships. And I started as kids staff, which was not my cup of tea. I have nothing against kids, nothing against parents with kids, but it's not my world. So I was actually gonna walk away. At the end of my first week, I went down and I told the director of entertainment that, hey, love what you do. I'm not upset with anything. It's just not for me. And I was actually prepared to quit. Because you have a grace period. The cruise line can let you go or you can walk within the first at that point in time, it was 2 to 3 weeks. And it was no harm, no foul on either side, because people get out there and you go, oh man, this isn't for me. Or you get out there and the cruise line goes, whoa, this isn't for you. So it protects both sides of the coin, so to speak. So I was gonna wash my hands and just say, hey, give it a shot. And it was in Alaska. I was in Alaska sailing out of Vancouver, my very first run. And the director of entertainment, at the time was the cruise director, was the head of the department at that point in time. It's shifted in the industry a bit, but he said, listen, he said, would you do the same thing, but for the adults? Would you come over to the adult side of things and be what we call cruise staff? You run the games, the activities, the pool games, you dance with people at night. You're the entertainment staff, the fun staff. And I said, sure, I'll give it a shot, and I switched over. And from there, everything just kind of settled into place. It was, I learned pretty quickly. I've one of the great benefits of homeschooling, and I know there's a lot of pros and cons out there, people with some thoughts on it, but one of the great things about homeschooling is you learn how to learn at your pace. You learn how to understand things at your own pace. You're not caught up in the wave that is the whole entire classroom where you're high flyers, low flyers, everybody in the middle. You're the only one. So I pride myself on being curious, being very curious and learning how to learn. So I learned it pretty quickly. I picked it up pretty fast. By the time I hit 23, I got promoted to cruise director. And from there, I was one of their leads for a long time. Holland had a lot of great cruise directors. I was one of the leads. I did a lot of the inaugurals. I did the presidential cruises. I did the press sailings, things like that. And I split it with a couple other guys that did it as well, a couple of the cruise directors that were very talented. And did that, end up doing that for about 12, 13 years. Did some corporate training in there where I would go out and assess cruise directors on other ships, make sure everything was going according to plan, help with training if they needed a leg up, or in other situations, obviously other scenarios, there are other answers. But and then eventually in 2013, I guess, 13, 14, 13, 12, sorry, 2012, I was still a cruise director, but I wasn't as interested anymore in it. I've been doing it for, over a decade. And I called him and just said, the director of entertainment for the company, it was a gentleman that had been with them forever. And he was a good guy. And I just said, hey, I'm kind of reaching the end here. And he's like, I got a cool thing coming up. He goes, we just signed a partnership that it might be interesting to you. He's like, you've heard of Dancing with the Stars. And I was like, well, yeah, of course. At the time, it was one of the biggest shows on television in that earlier phase. And he's like, well, we just signed a deal with them for 3 years where we're going to do what's called Dancing with the Stars at Sea. And we're going to take the pros and the celebrities from the current season or, from past seasons, but trying to be as current as possible. And we're going to come out, we're going to do 6 cruises a year on different ships. And then we're going to do this. And at the end of each year, we'll have a competition. So the entire fleet ran dance competitions every week, regardless if we were there or not. They ran ballroom dance competitions. And so every week you had a winner on board a ship. So if a ship is in operation, if there's 48 cruises out of the 52 weeks out of the year, because some of them are longer, sometimes you have a dry dock and things like that. You'd have 48 winners. And then I would go in and I would take each cruise ship. There was 14 ships in the fleet at that time. I would review video and go through it, and I would pick an overall winner with a set of other judges. I would pick a winner for each ship. So then the 14 ships on the last cruise of the year with all of us, the pros and the celebrities for Dancing with the Stars, we would also bring 14 of the winners of the year out, and we would do a competition for the overall Dancing with the Stars at Sea championship. And it was a blast. I got to really stretch my production and producing and directing skills. I got to actually flex out a little bit more and do something where I was taking something that worked on land but had to make it fit on the ocean. And they had a wonderful team. Don't get me wrong, their team was fantastic, but I was the only one on our side who was kind of translating between the two, if you will, and helping take the concept of Dancing with the Stars and fitting it into a cruise ship. And that really led me to the next steps, because all of a sudden now I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but I put in my 10,000 hours, take that as you will. So I know cruise ships intimately. I know entertainment on cruise ships intimately. I speak that language. And for anyone that doesn't understand cruise ships, there's a very unique language when it comes to staff, what you can do, what you can't do. I mean, it's very much we think of it as a cruise ship, but upstairs and downstairs, it's not. It's a vessel that has safety, it has concerns, it is a hyper organized operation. There are tons of things you can and can't do that aren't normal necessarily if you were to be at a hotel on land or something. So, I had this cruise ship background, and then I'd done 3 years of Dancing with the Stars. And that end of 3, as Dancing with the Stars was just kind of wrapping up at the end of 2015, I got a call randomly from StarVista Live. I was just stepping out of cruising altogether. Dancing with the Stars was ending, and I was actually going to set up my own consultancy company and start consulting on how to run theme cruises at sea, basically. And before I'd even got the company off the ground, StarVista Live had heard about me through one channel or another and gave me a call. So my very first client, and to this day my biggest client, called me actually before my company the ink was even dry on setting up my company. And I've been with them since 2015.
But before we talk about StarVista Live, let's go back to Dancing with the Stars. I never was a big fan of the show. Or I shouldn't say. It wasn't that I didn't like the show. I just didn't watch it.
Yeah, you didn't watch. Yeah, either did I.
But I'm sure many of my listeners have. Yeah. So name a couple of the pros that you interacted with. They'll probably mean something to someone.
Yeah, in the beginning, so we had a main face that did all of our classes for us and recorded them, and those recordings went out to all the cruise ships. The first year, our face was Kim Johnson, Australian Kim Johnson, absolutely fabulous. She'd won the mirror ball herself, so she was a great face for it. In year 2 and year 3, it was another Australian, Sharna Burgess. was our face, and she is also a champion. She also has a mirror ball. So mirror ball is the trophy you win at the end of the season. So it was Kim was the face, and then Sharna was the face. But in between there, we also had on with us anywhere from 2 to 4 different pros each time we went out. So we had Derek Huff, we had Mark Ballas, we had Sharna, we had Kim, we had Tony Dovolani, we had Derek Huff, we had Artem, we had, Tristan McManus. We had a bunch. We really had a bunch, and I apologize if I'm leaving anybody out that's watching. But, and then the celebrities, we did the same thing. We would rotate our celebrities. We had Sabrina Bryan, we had Joey Fatone, we had Carson Kressley, we had a lot of fantastic celebrities that came out with us as well.
And kind of related to Dancing with the Stars, my favorite story when I wrote about you in Cruising Interrupted, and we might have talked about this on the previous podcast, but I can't remember. My favorite story was about, as cruise director, how you learned how to ballroom dance.
Yeah.
And that kind of differentiated you from not everyone, but from a lot of cruise directors. Say a little bit about that.
It did. So I was a 20-something, know-nothing homeschooled kid. I'm all of a sudden I'm director of entertainment for a cruise line that is notoriously not young. And I don't mean any disrespect to the Holland America Line cruisers out there, but a general Holland America Line cruise in those days, it was not Carnival. It was not Royal Caribbean. We were more grandparents and things of that nature because we were a more sophisticated line. We were a line that was predicated on service, predicated on being a step above, really was Holland America Line's goal at the time. So me, I get cruise director. I'm baby face already. I'm pretty young faced. I started growing a beard when I was in my 20s, just purely to give myself a little bit of age. To this day, if I shave my face, I look much younger than I actually am, which is a blessing. Not complaining about that. More so, just saying I had to find a way to have some gravitas with our clientele as well. And one of them I figured was in that point in time, in those early 2000s, ballroom dancing was a big thing. Every night, every single night on a Holland America Line ship, one of 2 venues had dancing going on. And you just had a 3 or 4 person band that was playing classic different rhythms, classic different, different counts, whether it was, variety of different ballroom steps, basically. And I just learned at that age, it's like, you know what? Wouldn't it be cool if I could walk into the room and just offer my hand to a woman and say, would you like to waltz? Would you like to foxtrot? Would you like to? And again, when I say women, I don't mean this as a pickup line. This is married women that are in there and the husbands don't really want to dance. They've already danced a couple of songs. The women are tapping their heels, kind of shaking their heads. And I'm a non-entity. I'm the director of entertainment. So it's not like anyone's threatened by me coming up. But I thought, what a great way to kind of open the door for me to have a little bit more gravitas, a little bit more standing with our mature clientele. And so I learned to ballroom dance when I was probably 22. I started learning and I just started picking it up. And then I started teaching it on board because I realized you don't really have to be, and I take nothing away from the expert teachers out there. We need levels to this. I was teaching at a very base level. I can teach the intro steps to most ballroom dance. So I learned my craft and I learned how to do it to, like I said, to give myself a little better standing. And so, yeah, I already had some ballroom background. I'd been teaching it for a decade at my level. Again, when I say teaching, but yeah, it was a tool. It was a tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, I love that story. It's funny. I just recorded a podcast. I do a different podcast on a different topic, but I just recorded a podcast. And the gentleman who was a guest, he's an author, and he just wrote a book. He's like a marketing expert, and he just wrote a book called Differentiation. And when I met him and I saw his book, I actually thought about you. You know what I mean? That's you found a way at 20, what do you say, 22, 20 something?
It's 22, 23, yeah.
You found a way to differentiate yourself from, I'm sure you weren't thinking about the competition at the time, but it really was.
I wasn't.
Differentiate yourself from the competition, and as a marketing, I used to teach marketing at the university level as a marketing teacher. I love that story.
Yeah, yeah. It was done with the purest of intentions of just trying to be better at my job. I didn't really. You're exactly right. I didn't really. I wasn't at a stage yet where I was considering who was ahead of me or who was behind me or who was next to me in terms of my peers doing the same job. I was just trying to learn the job. I was
Yeah.
just trying to be good at the gig. I take a lot of pride in what I do, and I wanted to be good. I wanted to be someone that, regardless of your age, regardless of how you felt, maybe you don't, maybe you do and don't love me. Every cruise director has a little bit of give and take.
Uh-huh.
You like our style or you don't,
Uh-huh.
which I accepted. I accepted early, but I also accepted that if I could make myself broad, if I could have a broader appeal, then I wasn't relying on just trying to be funny or just trying to be charming or just trying to be a dancer or just trying to be. I was trying to put more tools in my toolbox, which would allow me to do more.
We'll be right back.
The Joy of Vacation by Dream Vacations invites you to join us on a bucket list adventure to Africa. We're going to Kenya and Egypt for 14 days, April 10th through April 24th, 2027. A week in Kenya, including safaris, and a week in Egypt, including the pyramids and a 4-day Nile River cruise. This adventure includes air from the U.S., all transfers, all accommodations, private tours, and many meals. $5,000 to $5,500, depending on air, per person. Double occupancy. Only $250 per person deposit due at booking. The remainder is not due until late 2026. For a detailed itinerary, online brochure, and to book, email me at pthornton, THORNTON, pthornton @dreamvacations.com. And I'm sure, just as you weren't thinking about the competition, I'm sure you weren't thinking about someday you're going to be working with Dancing with the Stars at Sea.
Yeah, not even close.
And I
Honestly,
have to
the day,
believe this helped prepare you for that.
immensely, immensely, because what it allowed me to do is I don't speak. I speak two languages. I speak cruise ship and I speak entertainment. I don't speak entertainment as well as I speak cruise ship, but I speak cruise ship pretty fluently. And when I say that, I mean, I was building pieces of myself that would allow me to integrate more things. And I didn't know if that meant. I never considered Dancing with the Stars. That's like writing a short story and then comparing yourself to one of the great novelists or one of the great writers. Like you don't do it, right?
Right,
You just,
right.
this is what I do and this is my lane. And I realize there's levels to this. But yeah, so when I did get the call, jumping ahead slightly, when I did get the call, I remember feeling not uniquely qualified, not to say there aren't other qualified humans, but I remember feeling prepared. I remember getting that call and saying, "Oh, this fits. Like I'm not scared of this." And as you know from marketing, that's a really strong starting position to
Yeah.
come into something wary of it and respecting the power of it, but also not afraid of it. I was comfortable in those shoes.
So go back to you were telling us about StarVista Live. Tell our listeners
Yeah.
about StarVista Live's cruises.
Sure. So when I joined, there was 3 cruises. We call them the legacy cruises because they've been there from the beginning. So the very first cruise was Malt Shop Memories, which is a 50s, 60s doo-wop and early rock kind of cruise. Second cruise and third cruise that came out basically at the same time were the country music cruise, which is a classic country. It's real country music and a real good time. It's not crossover. It's not pop country. We will flirt with the 90s a little bit, but only if you're more of a classical artist from that era. If you play what they considered true country versus pop or crossover country. And then Soul Train. Soul Train was the third one. Obviously, Soul Train is a continuation of the popularity of the TV show and what Don Cornelius did for Black business, Black music, worldwide, globally, not just in the United States, but primarily in the United States. So I joined just after they'd started those 3. So those 3 were their legacies, and they were all about a year old. I think Malt Shop was 2 years old. Country and Soul Train were 1 year old when I came in. And I've been with them now since 2015, so it's 11 years, a little over 11 years. We started talking a little bit before that, and we're at 9 experiences now. So we grew from 3 to 9. We added the Flower Power Cruise, which is a 60s Woodstock kind of hippie generation, hippie era style cruise. We added 70s Rock and Romance. which is yacht rock, for lack of better terms. America, Air Supply, Styx,
Okay.
Foreigner. Then we added a disco cruise. The disco cruise is exactly as it sounds. It's really predicated on that late 70s, but really the 80s, early 90s disco, kind of funk, a little bit of everything. We've actually shifted the name to make it a little grander. It used to be just the Ultimate Disco Cruise. Now it's Ultimate Disco Cruise and Beyond, which allows us to step more into the dance world, some Latin, some more 90s, some fun upbeat dance music, basically. Still keeping disco as our central motif, though. We then added the Big Easy Cruise, which is our New Orleans it's meant to loosely echo Jazz Fest on a cruise ship. Jazz Fest, if you're familiar, if your listeners are familiar, obviously is a very broad, it's huge, it's everything now. It's not jazz, it's not blues, it's not hip hop, it's everything. Who they have headlining one year, you wouldn't think in a million years would headline a Jazz Fest. So again, Jazz Fest becomes kind of the loose term for what is New Orleans music.
I know you had.
So we added the Big Easy
You
Cruise.
had one of my favorites as a headline. I think it was this season, maybe it was last season, Trombone Shorty.
Trombone Shorty, yeah.
Were you on that cruise?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
I'm on all of them. Yeah, I do every single cruise.
You do all?
So
okay, that was a question I was going to ask you.
Yeah, yes, sir. I am me for all 9 experiences.
Wow.
So yeah, Trombone Shorty, man. I mean, before we jump into the last couple of cruises we have, which I want to make sure I touch on, Trombone Shorty is otherworldly. He takes an instrument that is not, I mean, when you think of the instruments that are sexy, the guitar is sexy, the saxophone is sexy. Those they mimic lead vocals in a lot of ways. And they're almost, I mean, for lack of more graphic terms, there is a very there is a unique nature to anything that you play from the waist up. A guitar, a saxophone, there is a sensuality built into that based on how your body moves when you play. Trombone Shorty takes the trombone, which, I mean, with all due respect, is not necessarily the first instrument that my small mind thinks of when I think of sexier instruments. And the man puts on a show that, even as someone that's seen thousands upon thousands of shows, I stood there the whole time just watching this man work. He is phenomenal at what he does. Beyond just being talented, he is a master of stagecraft. He's, that gets lost. People kind of forget that we think that they're just great musicians or they're great on stage. But when you can combine it all together, Trombone Shorty's next level. We've had him a couple times now, and he's worth every penny.
He'd be right at home on the Soul Train cruise.
I think he would. I really think he would.
I saw him at the, I'm sure you've heard of Essence Music Fest.
Oh, yeah.
In New Orleans. That's
Mm-hmm.
That's where I first saw him. And
yeah.
Oh, man, he turned it out.
He's next level. He's fascinating. So just finishing up on our cruises, we then purchased a cruise called Sandy Beaches Cruise. I say we, StarVista Live purchased a cruise. Sandy Beaches is a Texas-based, it's blues, it's country, it's rock, it's a little bit of everything. It's got it's got horns, it's got some jazz, it's very singer-songwriter. It's a fantastic headliners. It was owned forever by a world-famous musician named Delbert McClinton. You're familiar with Delbert McClinton? It was Delbert McClinton's Sandy Beaches Cruise. And as he got on in years, he just decided it's a lot to run. It's a heavy burden to run a charter. And he and his wife decided that they were going to step out, and StarVista Live came together with them. And it was a beautiful, very harmonious. It wasn't a takeover. It was more of a handoff. It was really well done. There was some concern in the beginning from the Sandy Beaches crowd that we were a big corporation coming in and we were going to turn it into, a department store type thing. And it's not how we operate. It's not what we do. And I think everyone at this point has been really happy with it. We just actually sailed on the 30th Sandy Beaches cruise, and we've owned it for, I think, the last 3 or 4. So that gives you an idea of the longevity and the popularity of their music. And then the 9th experience is because of its absolute sheer and utter popularity, we had to add, I say we had to, we were able to, we were fortunate enough, we added a second Soul Train cruise. So we have 2 Soul Trains. So we have 8 unique experiences, and then one of those 8, Soul Train, has 2 experiences, and both of them sell out, before we leave the ship.
So I've gone on the last 2 Soul Trains in the spring. And then you have another one in the fall.
Yes, sir.
It's pretty much the same lineup, right, or not?
It varies. Last year was the first year or this past one is the first time we did it. And the long and short of it is we sold out 2 years ago. We sold out. So taking a slight step back, our only indication as to how much people are enjoying the cruise outside of word of mouth and chatter, because you get the pros and cons. You get, I love it, I don't like it, I want this, I don't want this. Why would you ever do that? Why don't you have this person? Why would you ever bring that person? There's a lot of, it's very subjective. It's very subjective. But with Soul Train and with any of the cruises, the number one form of understanding we have as to how the cruise is running is onboard sales, because we're selling you next year's cruise on board this year's cruise with the guarantee that while we're sailing, only you on board have access to next year. We haven't opened it up to the world yet. You get first shot because of your loyalty, because you're with us. Then at the end of the cruise, we take whatever cabins are left, we open that up to the wait list and then the rest of the world. Soul Train is the only cruise we have that as of 2 years ago started selling out completely on board before we even left. So,
Wow.
yeah, all of a sudden, we sold every single cabin. I mean, bar a couple, like 2 or 3 cabins type deal, like nothing. So we sold them all. And we all just like started looking at each other going, I mean, we've got a wait list of over 1,500, sometimes 2,000 people. And we sold out. We don't even have a cruise to offer them. We're going to lose them to the other great experiences out there that are kind of parallels to Soul Train, whether it's Capital Jazz or Tom Joyner or, some of the different experiences, which are great. And we understand that we don't want to lose their interest, because often if you go to another cruise, if you go to another experience, unless you really don't like it, it'll be your new home. It'll become your new home. So we kind of got a wild hair and we went, can we throw a second one of these together? We typically plan a cruise for over 2 years. We threw, I mean, it was an experience we already understood and knew. So it wasn't, we weren't starting from scratch. But as of February, we made the call to launch a November cruise this last February for last November, which is a very short runway for us. It was a scary runway. It was a very short runway. StarVista Live has done a phenomenal job in the last, since their birth, of not overstepping, of not taking, they'll wait a year over rushing something. They'll wait till next year over rushing something this year. Even if we're pretty sure we can do it, we have to be real confident before we throw something against the wall early. And we threw it against the wall. And the reason I go through the long diatribe is at first it was going to be an extension of the first week. So if you can't get onto February, you can come onto November. It's going to be almost this exact same cruise. But what we saw last year that was really unique is there's a set of people who like to cruise in November that aren't necessarily February people. And so it really is now, it's 2 unique experiences.
Okay.
There will always be some crossover. For some artists, it's easier to book them that far in advance. If we can promise them 2 dates in the year, hey man, if you'll do this with us in February, we can promise you another payday in November. Same thing, same rough experience, same rough, da-da-da-da. And yeah, so it's not exactly the same. There are similarities. It's the same experience. It's just not the same exact lineup. But the experience, the Soul Train cruise, is the same until next year. Next year, it's going to be dramatically different because Soul Train is moving to a different cruise line. Our February cruise, we're moving to Celebrity Silhouette, slightly larger, slightly newer ship. And our fall cruise, our November cruise, will stay on Holland America Line's Eurodam. And we don't know how long that will be. We kind of want to spread them out and see what happens. Celebrity's a different line. It's a bigger line. It's a newer ship. We're adding about 500 people, but the ship is bigger, so it's not less comfortable. But we also know our Soul Train crowd loves Holland America Line. Man, they love the service, they love the staff. It's a favored destination to be on that cruise line. So we're kind of keeping both for now until we have a cleaner look at it.
Well, I was going to ask you to name the some of the headliners for next year, but the cruise is sold out. So that's
Cruise is sold out.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I don't want to get people's hopes up, and when they hear it, but what about the fall of 27?
Yeah, let me grab it here because this is how torn up I am. As I have so many cruises in my head at one time that I don't remember who's on each exact cruise. So November of this year, November of 26.
So November of 26, you still have availability.
We have some, not much, not much. There's a couple, like a handful. So if you're watching this and you're interested, dive on it fast. This thing will sell out, because what happens is we end the February cruise, and anyone who's locked out of February launches for November. So November doesn't sit for more than a month, maybe, for what's left. And because this past 25 was the first time we'd run it, we sold the majority of it, but we didn't quite sell out, which we didn't expect. We actually sold more than we thought we would. So there's a little bit left. Johnny Gill, En Vogue, The Temptations, El DeBarge, Layla Hathaway, The Commodores, comedian Bruce, Tavares, Midnight Star, the legendary Blue Notes, the Wailers, which I'm really excited about, the legendary Wailers, Family Stone, one of the greatest party bands of all time, Party Train, another fantastic experience, the Marvin Gaye Experience featuring Johnny Britt, which is going to be very unique, Belladonna. Urban Gorilla is our main band that plays with us on all the Soul Trains. They back a lot of the artists, but they are phenomenal artists in their own right. So I would never call them a house band, because they're so much bigger and better than that. But if that helps someone understand, like there are annual every single time we run it. They are the core of the musical experience. And then from there, Best Kept Soul, Special Chefs, things like that. Like we have some other experiences as well. But yeah, at the top, Johnny Gill, En Vogue, Temptations, El DeBarge, Lila Hathaway. It's going to be a killer cruise.
Yeah, I went on my first one last year, and I sat in that long line to buy tickets for this year, which was worth it. And then this year, I got sad every time I passed that lineup of chairs to buy for next year, because I can't do it. I have I'm leading a group trip to Africa.
Wonderful.
In April.
Wonderful.
So I couldn't afford to do both February and
That's
April.
a lot.
So,
yeah, that's
so
a lot.
I had to sadly pass up, but I'll be back in 28.
I hope so. Well, our 27 lineup for February, just so you're aware, next year we have the Isley Brothers, Stephanie Mills, Maze, Patrice Rushen, Earth, Wind & Almaquay's Earth, Wind & Fire, Russell Tompkins Jr. and the New Stylistics, Evelyn Champagne King, the Shy Lights, Maxie Priest, the Daz Band, Ray Goodman and Brown, Booker T. Jones. We have Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are coming as a duo. And they're bringing Ruben Studdard and Shanice Wilson with them to do actual full show. This year, as you know, I sat and did a one-on-one with Jimmy Jam. And then next year, we're getting the whole experience. So I'm sorry you're missing it. It's going to be another good one, but I'm sure we'll get you
now
back.
Choosing and procuring the talent, that would be very exciting to me as a music guy. How involved are you with that aspect of Soul Train Cruise?
So we have an executive producer on all of our cruises. There's an executive producer, and that is the individual at the tip top that's making the majority of. That's the end all be all. The buck stops at the executive producer. Then below that, there's a couple of us that are heavily involved in the day to day, and I say that to say he will bring to the table a list of artists, and he will say, "This is what I'm thinking," and he'll sit down with 2 or 3 of us maximum. He likes to keep things close to the chest, understandably. Close to the vest, and he'll sit down with a couple of us and he'll say, "What do you think? If I've got this, and this, these are locked. I need to add 2 or 3 more. Where would you go? Do we need to go softer? Do we need to go harder? Do we need to go funkier? Do we need to go, where do you see us needing to go? Do we need the party bands at the pool? Are they too soft? Do we need more oomph? Are our main stage shows, do they hold the gravitas that we need them to?" And so from there, we'll actually walk it together. And again, not to say that they don't have the ultimate choice and decision. They absolutely do. But I feel very fortunate that there's 2 or 3 of us that get brought into that loop and asked our opinions and valued for our opinions. And then where I have almost, it's not complete control because the executive producer is always above you. But where I am basically tasked on running it myself is I run the comedy club and I run the DJs for the most part. So those 2 aspects of what we do, whether it's a headline comedian for the main theater or whether it's our Soul Train Comedy Club comedians, those come through me. And then the DJs, they don't all come through me. This isn't an official thing, but they tend to come through me. But anybody can bring one to the table and go, "Hey, I got a guy or I got a gal who can do this. I got a person who can come in and do this." We're very open. We work together. StarVista Live is lean and mean. In total, the top down, the total number of employees is 18, I think, for them. And then there's 3 or 4 of us that are contractors that work incredibly closely with them. But they're very lean, because in that 18, those aren't all operational. Some of those are finance, some of those are marketing, some of those are, IT. So really, in the core of it, it's a small group that runs.
You strike me as very busy on the actual cruise. Do you find
Yes,
time
sir.
to enjoy it?
You have to define enjoy, I think, in that regard. What I enjoy about it is, I think, like anyone that builds, I enjoy if you build something and it works, I enjoy that. I enjoy putting something together and then watching from the background and watching it work more, because it doesn't always. It doesn't always. Sometimes the best intentions lead you down the wrong path. And all of a sudden now you're scrambling because you really thought that was the right room to do that event, and it's overflowed, or it's too big, or whatever, right? There's a million little caveats you have to deal with. So my enjoyment of the cruise, honestly, is seeing people having a good time, seeing people getting the experience that they paid for and they want. Certain cruises, they want, if I give you $1, I want $1's worth back. Certain cruises are a little looser. Certain cruises want that dollar back. They want $1's worth of their entertainment and fun back. And when you feel like you're towing that line, you feel really, really good. In terms of enjoying myself, like being able to sit and watch a concert, I've not been able to sit and watch a full concert in years, outside of,
Oh,
like, I got most of Trombone Shorty, but even that, it was like I was running backstage to make a call, then coming back out and watching for 10 minutes, and then I was running out to do something, coming back and watching for 15 minutes. And
oh my
yeah,
goodness.
you're always moving. You're always moving.
What about the conventional cruise enjoyment? Do you ever get off? Do you always get off, or ever get off at the ports?
No. So I think because I cruised so much as a general cruise director, like when I worked for cruise ships, as a general cruise, and you know this, you've been on regular cruises and themed cruises. They're not the same thing. And it's really hard. It's hard to explain to someone that hasn't done both that your regular cruise, once you do a themed cruise, especially if it's a themed cruise that you enjoy musically or theme wise, you go back to regular cruising and you are the most bored you've ever been in your life. You've never been so bored. And that's not to say regular cruising isn't fantastic. But if you're looking for what theme cruising gives you, regular cruises don't hold a candle. I say that to say you have time and space on regular cruising to go ashore, to experience things, to go to the beach, to go get lunch, to walk around the town or the city or whatever. And I've been very fortunate I've circumnavigated the globe 5, 6 times at this point. I've touched all 7 continents. I'm well over 100. I don't even know anymore. I passed 100 countries well over a decade ago.
Yeah, When I interviewed you for the book,
Yeah.
you guesstimated you had 500 cruises then.
Oh, yeah.
And that book
Easy.
that you were in came out about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So you're up a few hundred.
Yeah, we're up a bit.
So now your lovely wife has come on cruises with you.
Yeah,
Did I meet her last year?
You
Did she
did.
come on?
Yes,
Yeah,
you did. Yeah.
So she now doesn't she go to get off at the ports, or
She doesn't
not
really
really?
either. So she was
No?
an
Okay.
entertainer. She was an entertainer. She worked on cruise ships as well. I actually met her through Dancing with the Stars. She was a dancer on board. She was a cast dancer. So she was
Okay.
ballet, tap, jazz, hip hop. All the fun things that they learn. And so that's how we came together. But she had worked on cruise ships, so she has traveled the whole world as well. And it's not to say you don't appreciate it, but when you are on a charter or a themed cruise and you get to a port, you are so excited for all the guests to go out, and you get a minute to either get ahead on your work or just to breathe for a minute on board. Going ashore becomes the lesser desired event, even if it's a great port. Sometimes you're like, I have to catch up on next cruise. So I've got stuff, on Soul Train. That was the last of a 5-week run. We'd been on for 5 weeks at that point, and we'd run 3 other full experience. So that was our 5th week. We'd been on for 4 weeks. That was our 5th week. We'd run 3 other full experiences. You're prepping next week's experience while you're on this experience. So, on each of those, every time you have downtime, you're scrambling to get ahead so you can make sure you're in the right spot. for the next week. So no, going ashore and enjoying the islands and things like that is something that we both like to do, but we prefer to do it on a vacation where we fly somewhere and we can just shut down and be, as opposed to running and,
How about the performers? From
Mhm.
your knowledge, how
Yeah.
do they spend their time during the cruise?
I tell you what, it's so one of the things when we hire performers is we're looking for good citizens. Part of the cool experience of being on a themed cruise is you get up and go to breakfast and you look over and there's Jeffrey Osborne. You go to lunch or you go to catch a show and you're sitting in the show and you look over and there's a big star right next to you, just being a fan of the other stars.
Right.
So I think there's really two things for the stars. One, when we hire, we're looking for good citizens. We're looking for people that don't mind being out, that don't mind being around people. I'm not saying you have to be out all the time, but don't hide in your cabin. That's what we prefer. Some levels of stars kind of have to hide. Love Smokey Robinson with all my heart. We've had Smokey a bunch of times. If Smokey's out in public, he gets mobbed. So I get it. I get where he has to be careful to protect his own space and energy. For the most part, though, they're fans. I think that's easy to forget is that the artists are fans of each other and they don't get to be on the same lineup very often. But they've known each other for 40 years. They've been performing on the same bill on and off for 40 years. And maybe they haven't seen each other for 5, 6 years. Maybe they haven't seen each other because they're not touring quite the way they used to or however it works out. So number one, I think, is catching other people's music. You see artists very incognito catching other people's music all the time. And you see it a lot. You see it a lot. But funny enough, guests don't recognize artists often unless they look like they've seen them on stage, on the album, or on TV. Put a hat on, and all of a sudden, it helps you understand why the glasses on Clark Kent made everyone not recognize he was Superman, because it's really similar. I mean, I've been standing right next to major stars when a guest is complaining to me that they never see that star, and he's literally right there, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me going, "Don't you do it? Don't you do it?" And I won't. But I'm hearing this person complain to me, and all I keep saying is, "They're out. They're out.
Yeah.
You're not recognizing them because they're not show ready, and it's not that they look worse; they just look different."
Do you run into not many, but do you run into stars who are not that familiar with the cruising
Yes,
aspect?
very, very. There's an old adage back in the day. If you go back a few decades, 30 years or so, maybe even 40 years, cruising was where you went to die, for lack of better terms. And I don't mean physically; I mean career-wise. When your career was trending downward, you started getting calls from cruise lines, and that was how you knew what your standing was. And so cruise lines had a really bad or negative image for entertainers for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. So there are still to this day some of the original or older entertainers that don't want to do a cruise ship purely because the connotation. I'm not that old. I'm not doing an old person's thing. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And it's hard to break people of the notion until they can see what the experience is now. This isn't a cruise. This is a festival at sea. It's different. It's a festival on a cruise ship. You're not being hired by Holland America Line to go out on one of their regular cruises and do a show. That's not what we're doing here. Like you're on a lineup with monsters. You're on a lineup. Sorry, that's the Soul Train lineup, just as an example. Like you're on the lineup with 20 other monsters and 200 total monsters. I mean, individual musicians are, there's just so much talent out there. And a lot of folks have kind of gotten over that. But one of the things that we had to do with StarVista Live is we had to create a one sheet. We had to create a one sheet from all the genres and put all the EGOT winners, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony Award winners, and basically make a list so that anytime we get an artist who's like, I'm bigger than cruise ships, you go, yeah, but this is who's done it with us. Just so you know, we're not a joke and we're not, you are big, you're huge, but just so you know, they are too. And they've all done it. Feel free to call any one of them and ask about us, and that's helped a great deal. A great example is Babyface at first wasn't really interested in the cruise. He didn't have anything against it. Just wasn't really interested in it. He has relatives that are in other bands. And so we hired one of those bands because
after 7, right?
yeah. His brother's in it. And so we hired After Seven, and we were excited. We weren't using After Seven, to be very clear. We weren't using them, but because we wanted them as well. We wanted them, absolutely. But we also saw the benefit of, listen, if we can get them, which we wanted them, and they have a good time, which we hope they will, then at least that's one more avenue to let his brother know that we aren't a joke. We're the real deal. And we love After Seven. So again, I make very clear, we didn't use After Seven to get to Babyface at all. But we hired them knowing, we knew, and we do that often in labels. We'll hire people lower down labels. So the label now knows we're legit because we treated their guys, their gals, we treated their people wonderfully. And now the people at the top of their label list are more interested because they gave us a lower label person. And again, no disrespect, but I'm not talking about After Seven at all. I'm talking about something completely different now. But that same idea, so that it softens the ask when we ask up. And Babyface was a great example. After Seven came out, had a great time, and they were fabulous. And we would hire them whether we got Babyface or not. We love After Seven. They're great. They're with us now. We will hire them as long as we go. But it also helped because then when we went after Babyface the next time, he'd talk to his brother, and the label had said, no, they're legit. And he was like, all right, cool. So he's cruised with us. We do that.
He's done the Soul Train.
He did Soul
Cruise.
Train.
Yeah. I would love that. I've seen him live.
He's phenomenal. What an entertainer.
The songs he's written. I mean, that list just goes on and on and on and on.
And not to diatribe into specific entertainers, but I will say, when Babyface came out and did his show is wonderful. But he does a huge section in the middle, right? And you've seen the show, right in the middle of his show. They're not his songs he performed. They're the songs that he's written. And he will say, here's a little medley of my songs over the years. And it's like, I swear it goes on forever. And and it only is like 20, 30 seconds of each song, 20 seconds of a song. He's just doing the hook or a bar. And then he'll go to the next one. And I'm watching an audience, and I was doing it too. And I was standing next to a couple of my friends on the Soul Train cruise when it was happening. And I'm looking out at the audience. And every time he stepped into a new song, you forgot that he had something to do. You forgot he wrote that. You forgot he produced that. And the audience just goes, it erupts every time he goes in. And
kind of the same with Jimmy Jam and
very much. And Terry.
Yeah.
Jam and Lewis.
I didn't know that they had anything to do with Reuben Studdard.
Yeah.
I always think mainly I think of Janet Jackson with them. But
sure.
And then I think of The Time and Prince and all that.
Yeah, Boyz II Men.
But but they go deep as well.
And complete diatribe. Did you watch Reuben's show?
Yeah, I had seen that show I was living in North Carolina at the time, and he did the full tribute to Luther. And so I saw him up on the Lido deck, I guess it was, and told him I saw him in Charlotte, and I'm looking forward to seeing him there. And I gave him my card, so I don't expect to hear from him, but I'd love to have him on my podcast.
Hey, I'll tell you what, if you watch that show and you saw it, every now and then I appreciate performances from a different angle. I think that a lot of people do. Music is great. I love good music. Like anybody else, I love good music. But I can appreciate, as someone that comes from this, I can appreciate stagecraft. And when you watch an entertainer from the jump to the downbeat at the end, from downbeat to downbeat, when you watch them hold an audience in the palm of their hand and take them on a ride, every word fits, every bit of patter fits, every stage movement, how he works the front of the stage and goes back to the band, everything's calculated.
Yeah.
And everything is so beautifully structured. His show blew me. I knew he was talented. I didn't know he was a master of his craft. That man, that show, if you get a chance, anyone listening to this, if you get a chance to see Reuben Studdard's tribute to Luther, my tribute to Luther, as he calls it, it is worth every cent.
Yeah.
It is worth every cent.
And it was special both times. It was special for me because Luther is my all-time favorite.
It's Luther.
Yeah.
So
without stepping on any toes, contrast the Soul Train cruise, the passengers, the performers, the overall vibe to the other cruises that you host. And I'm not suggesting one is any better than the other, but I know there's differences.
There's differences. Yeah. Better is such a strong term, right? Because for some people, each cruise, if you ask the Soul Train crowd's better than all the other cruises because they're the Soul Train crowd. If you ask the Malt Shop crowd Malt Shop is the best cruise we do because they're the Malt Shop crowd. So each crowd thinks their cruise is the best, and they should, because there's a reason they're on that cruise. It's your people, it's your musicians, it's your music, it's your experience, it's your era, whatever it is. That's the cruise you're supposed to be on. We have a lot of people that do multiple cruises with us. We have a lot of people that do Soul Train and disco and rock and romance, our 70s cruise. We have a lot of people that do our 60s flower power and our malt shop. We have a lot of people that do our sandy beaches and our country. So we have people that are doubling up in their musical experiences, which leads.
And as I said earlier, I know Trombone Shorty would fit well on Soul Train.
Absolutely. So if I were to walk down the path of the differences of them, first and foremost, Soul Train's the biggest party we have. Soul Train it's the only cruise we have that is predominantly one type of guest. It is a predominantly African-American guest. It is a level of affluence. It's a relative age level. There is a coming home aspect to Soul Train that we have on other cruises, but it's stronger on Soul Train. The community on Soul Train is undeniably strong, and I love that.
A giant family reunion.
It is a giant family reunion. As my guys always say, it's the cookout, and everybody's coming back. And it's fantastic in that way. It's been running now for 10 years, 11 years. This is the 15th cruise. This is the 15th sailing that we just did, but it's run for 12 years, I think. And, it's magic. It's magic. A Soul Train crowd is the only crowd we have that is as interactive as they are. If I do call and response on the Soul Train cruise, I get a response. There's no such thing as a quiet house. There's no such thing as a quiet audience, which I love. One of the things I say on every single cruise, and I use this line, and I've always used it, is the louder you are as an audience, the better it is for the entertainer. And the better it is for an entertainer, the better it's going to be for you as an audience. So your live entertainment is not just who's on stage. It's the whole venue. A rough crowd can make a difference. A great crowd can make a difference. A quiet crowd can make a difference. A loud crowd. There's a lot of variability. Soul Train is one of the few where there is a deep, deep, deep connection between the artist and the fan. And the fan feels some level of pride with the artist being who they are, because I supported you from then until now. I'm part of your journey. Some of the other cruises, they're a little quieter about it, a little softer about it, a little more gentle, but it's a different connection. Soul Train is the most interactive. It's just the most, people have the most opinions, people have the most positive, people have the most everything. It's just the most. And it's what I love about it. What I love about it is having a Soul Train crowd. You know exactly where you stand. You know exactly how they feel about you. You know exactly how they feel about the moment. You know exactly what's going on. Soul Train crowd is very, very vocal. And that's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing as an MC.
Last question specific to Soul Train Cruise. Is there anyone in particular either you would like to see on the Soul Train Cruise or that you mentioned an executive director? The executive director has been trying to get. Or you can give me both answers.
There are 3 people that I would kill to get on Soul Train, and it's for me, but it is more so for the guest. The 3 most requested we get, I think you can probably guess why we can't get them. Stevie, obviously, being right at the top. Lionel being right at the top. And Al Green being up there. Those 3 to me would be absolutely, utterly magic. It would be such a gift, not only for myself, because I'm a huge fan, for all the obvious reasons, but to be able to walk out on stage and see that house, to see the crowd before we get to introduce one of those acts. There's nothing like, one of the reasons being an MC is fun. When you're an MC on a regular cruise ship, I have to be part of the entertainment because, it's a juggler, it's a comedian, it's a singer and dancer show, it's a musician. Not to say they're not incredibly talented and popular, but it has nothing to do with them. It has to do with the crowd. On a regular cruise, not everyone's there for the same reason. Some people are there to travel. Some people are there to get away. Some people love the entertainment. Some people really don't care. Some people got drugged into the room because their wife or husband brought them down to the room to watch the show. And, it's not as full circle, meaning on a theme cruise, on Soul Train, on one of these other cruises, there's a reason you're on the cruise, and it's for the music. It's for the artist that I'm about to bring on stage. Mm-hmm. So on a regular cruise, I have to be a bigger part of the entertainment. On a charter cruise, on a theme cruise, I have to be short, sweet, make a quick impression, be it charming, funny, whatever, and then I need to get out of the way because no one's there for me. You're there for what's going to come up behind me. And rightfully so. I say that with absolute understanding and respect. You shouldn't be there for me. I should be getting out of the way. It's my saying, I interview the same way. If I can say 6 words and the artist talks for an hour, I've done my job. No one wants to hear me. They want to hear. I mean, you do this for a living. You understand intimately. Your job ideally is to get me to talk. That's what, I'm your guest. Me talking is you doing the best job. It's the same thing out there. So being able to walk on stage and introduce somebody that I know this crowd wants so desperately and has begged to see so desperately, it's incredible. You just can't beat that feeling of getting people what they asked for, getting people what they wanted, and just seeing the joy, just the sheer joy at that experience. There's nothing like it.
I said that was the last Soul Train question, but you just made me think of another one.
Fire away.
You do these interviews, and again, I know that maybe you don't want to single anyone out, but given all the interviews, what was the most fulfilling, enriching, rewarding experience?
And this is going to seem like a lie, but it is not. The Jimmy Jam interview I did on the last cruise, on the February Soul Train that we just got off. I'm being tasked with a one-on-one interview with an absolute legend. And my job is to be the catalyst between that legend and the fan. I have a huge, very important role, and it's very easy to mess that up. It's very easy to get caught into my own agenda. It's very easy to get caught into anxiety or nervousness or whatever it is you feel and drop the ball and fumble in that moment. I'm not a scripter. And that's the other part of it. I don't script anything. I don't write a list of questions. I don't, for me, with the stars, because I want, and I'm not, obviously podcasts are an entirely different operation. In a one-on-one interview with a star in front of an audience, I have to be able to ad lib, and I have to be able to go where the artist goes. And if my agenda is too strong, then I'm trying to steer that artist where I want them to go. And maybe that's not what they want to do. And maybe it's not what the audience wants. And now it creates a little bit of rub between the artist and I. My sole goal is to get up there, open them up, have them feeling as comfortable as humanly possible, and get them to talk about what you want to talk about. I want you to talk about what you want to talk about. I say that to say, so sitting with Jimmy Jam, who is, he's a, with all due respect, he's a musical god. In the musical realm, he's one of the all-time greats. He's one unequivocally. He's been awarded that way. He's been recognized that way. He's treated that way. He's viewed that way, and he should be. So it wasn't lost on me the importance of the moment, and I knew it was him and I. It was just the two of us on the main stage in a dark house with a full room, and we had an hour. I had an hour. That's it. Sometimes that's a lot. Sometimes that's not enough. And sitting and talking to him for an hour, and him being so open, and him being so willingness to share and talk, and him being so he's a beautiful mind. He's a beautiful human. He's not just in it for fame or fortune or any of those things. And granted, he's achieved all of that. He's here to make a difference, and that's his ultimate goal. And that's what came across, I think, in that whole conversation is the love and care that he operates with and how he treats people. And him saying, sometimes I wake up every day and I recognize I have an opportunity. What that opportunity is, I don't know yet, but I have a chance to be good today. And he goes, and sometimes it's making a #1 song. Sometimes it's just helping someone get something off the top shelf at the grocery store, right? Like that's a musical icon saying that sometimes his opportunity is just helping someone get a can of something off the top shelf. Like, what a beautiful way to approach life. What a beautiful way to approach life. That interview was wonderful for me. It really was. And I've done some great ones. Don't get me wrong. I've done some really fascinating interviews, but I was really personally excited for that one.
Let's talk about the future. Any personal travel coming up?
So I'm introverted. I'm extremely introverted. I am someone who I like people. I enjoy people. I think introversion and extroversion are often confused for what they really mean. We think introverted means you don't like people or you're not good with people, when it has no bearing on that at all. Introversion and extroversion purely are how we expel and gain our energies. Mm-hmm. And many of our favorite stars are introverts. They go out there and they deliver a killer show, but at the end of that show, they retreat because all they've done is give their energy. The standing ovation, the rock, the screaming, the cheering, the shouting, none of that carries weight with an introverted star because they've given you all that. They didn't get anything back from that. And I'm similar, not at star level, obviously, but I'm similar in that on these cruises, I give. I give, I give, I give, I give. And even the wonderful comments and the positivity and the fabulousness of the guests, it still ends up, I'm tired at the end of a cruise because I've just given energy. I say all that to say, when we come home, I'm a snow guy. Give me a snowboard and give me a mountain somewhere that's quiet. I live 45 minutes from a local mountain here that's a wonderful mountain. I'm a skier snowboarder, and I do everything I can to get as much time on the mountain as possible because it's just me and the headphones and maybe some buddies or not, but everyone's kind of doing their own thing. And it's just, it refills my soul. Being in nature, it's cold. You know, you're athletic, you're doing something hard, you're pushing yourself. You might be a little nervous or scared, like you're experiencing so many things. That is my ideal vacation. I am blessed with marrying up in every way, shape, or form. My wife is utterly incredible. And hilariously, she's the exact opposite of me. So her ideal vacation is a beach somewhere that's hot and sandy and the ocean's right there. That's her, you know. So we try to split. So I'll do 1 or 2 ski trips with my friends and then 1 ski trip with her where it's a village or someplace that she likes to be in at the base of the mountain. And then she will go on 1 or 2 warm weather trips with her girls. And then once in the summer, we'll do something together that is a hot destination. Dominican Republic is always extremely popular with us. DR is very, very popular. Every other summer or so, we try to go to the DR. And then for me, coming up so I'm leaving I have a disco cruise coming up. We're doing this, disco cruise is on its way. But in March, I'll be heading out to Wyoming to ski Jackson Hole. I've never been before. And then in April, I'll go down to Colorado and I'll stay in Colorado for a couple of weeks, just ski bumming around Colorado.
Great. Before we let you go, Jason, some fun or light cruise questions.
Let's do it.
You're a repeat guest, so these are a little different than the first time. But let me give a special welcome to Jason's fans and friends listening. We hope you have enjoyed what you have heard and will come back to listen to other podcasts. Jason, so that your friends and my listeners can get to know you better, let me ask a few questions I asked repeat guests. You kind of just did it. So the first question was, tell our listeners and friends, how do you spend your me time? And it sounds like your me time is anything having to do with snow.
Some of it. So I've learned to lean into the warm weather. I'm not a warm weather guy, but I've learned to lean into it. If it's winter, I'm finding a mountain somewhere. That's my me time. But if it's not winter, I've recently gotten into a bit more of extreme training for things. So I'm in the process of training to do a 70.3 Ironman, otherwise known as a half Ironman, which will come up a little later in the year. And that's going to be my gateway. I'm doing a 70.3 to see if I really enjoy it. And if I do, then I will, fingers crossed, and all things willing, I'll progress up to a full Ironman. And that I'm not the healthiest person on the planet. Don't claim to be, but I do really in the last few years. And once you pass the mid-40s and you're closing in on 50, you start to pay a little more attention to your body. You start to realize that it's not getting any easier, and you start realizing if you don't use it, you lose it. And so I've really leaned in over the last couple of years to my physical health. I love road biking, big road biker. And yeah, like I said, the 70.3 is now on my radar, and that's going to be in July of this year.
Well, good luck.
And that takes up a lot of time. Thank you.
Good luck for you.
I'm just hoping to survive it. Yes, sir.
Okay. What are you listening to right now in terms of music or podcasts, audiobooks?
So funny enough, I listen to, I'm real big into audiobooks. I clip through between 100 and 125 books a year.
Oh my goodness.
Because I do it when I train. So
I thought you were going to say you do it when you cruise, when you travel.
Yeah, sadly, no, I have no time to do it then. But when I'm training, when I'm cruising, if I'm on the bike or if I'm on the treadmill, I'll listen to a book. And when you're training for stuff like I'm training for, sometimes your workouts are multiple hours. You could be doing it for 2-3 hours. And I listen fast. I don't listen at normal speeds. I listen at closer to double speed, a lot of things. I process quickly. So it actually makes me really uncomfortable. And I know this is probably weird. It makes me really uncomfortable to listen at regular speed. And that's probably a testament to me not being a calm enough human in some way, shape, or form. But I listen fast. So yeah, I will clip through a whole lot of books. So I'm a big audiobook guy. And music, I am forever and will always be Bob Marley.
Name your latest great audiobook.
My latest great audiobook. Latest great audiobook. So one of the things I've been leaning into lately is leadership and ownership. And I find myself to be a very, very big proponent of discipline. Um, it took me 46 years to figure this out about myself, but I have very little motivation. I'm not motivated to do much. If you tell me today I should do something, the likelihood of me should doing it, very low. If you tell me that something needs to happen today, it will happen. It'll happen. I have extreme discipline, but I have no motivation in life, none. So I've started leaning more into different types of leadership and management, just trying to better myself. And one of the people I've leaned into a little bit lately, and he's not everyone's cup of tea, but he's an ex-military, he's ex-Navy SEAL. His name is Jocko Willink.
Okay.
And Jocko Willink he's a podcaster now, and he has a great podcast as well. But he wrote multiple books on leadership, one of them being Extreme Ownership, How a U.S. Navy SEAL Leads and Wins. And then I followed that up with his follow-up, which is The Dichotomy of Leadership, balancing the challenges of extreme ownership to lead and win. And really his whole premise is extreme ownership. You don't blame down, you blame yourself. You blame yourself. Everything you're responsible for. It's your choice. I mean, within reason, obviously. But yeah, I vary. So when I listen to books, I don't listen to a ton of fiction. I tend to listen to 2 or 3 heavy duty books, the self-improvement, betterment, life improvement, better vision, whatever it is. And then I'll do what I call a bubblegum book. Then I'll do a fiction or 2 in there, a thriller or a mystery or something fun. But I tend to lean into nonfiction and self-improvement.
Yep. And then I heard you say on music, I heard you say Bob Marley.
Bob Marley, forever.
So I can see why you're excited about the Wailers.
Yeah.
I saw them also at Essence Music Festival. And so you're in for a treat.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh, I'm so excited. His music, his message, all of it. I've always identified in some way, shape, or form with Marley. And yeah, he's Legend has been on my playlist, has been the number one thing on my playlist forever. It's the only thing I listen to when I ride motorcycles, when I'm skiing, when I'm doing anything I do. Bob Marley is what's on my headphones.
So here's a question that I tend to ask people on their repeat visit, but you're kind of different. It's what's the last live performance you experienced? So in your case, I'll just add the caveat outside of the theme cruise.
That is a phenomenal question. Outside of the theme cruises, so we do festivals. We go to festivals to scout, and we also go to festivals to promote. So I'm very fortunate that I've done a lot of festivals. The next concert we have on our list is for my wife. She is a huge, huge fan of a group called Florence and the Machine, and they are her spirit animals, for lack of better terms. And so we're actually going to go see them in a couple months, and that's probably the primary one I have on the radar, because she's beyond excited, which means I get to be excited too, whether I like it or not.
Okay. How about television and movies? Anything to turn my listeners on to?
Man, I wish I could. I really wish I could. That is one of the things. I think that's why I listen to so many books, to be honest. When people hear 125, 150 books, they go, oh my gosh. But I replace that with, I don't watch TV and I don't really watch movies. I'm moving most of the time.
Now, I would think you're watching the Winter Olympics.
Absolutely.
A lot of stuff that would appeal to you.
Absolutely. But I don't sit and watch it. Like I'll have it on the TV while I have a bike set up on a stationary trainer. And so I'll have the Olympics on the TV while I'm pounding away, which means I'm kind of watching, kind of suffering, a little bit of both. And then we'll just have it on the TV in the house playing at like a really low volume.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
And I lied because I said earlier, last Soul Train question, but I guess this is a Soul Train question.
Fire away.
Last request. Give us one of your funniest or favorite, doesn't have to be funny, or favorite all-time Soul Train cruise anecdotes?
There's a lot. We had, I'm not going to name the artists. We have a couple of artists who are not as young as they once were, let's just say. We deal in legacy music in a lot of way. And that's one of my favorite things that we do is, we want the music from the 70s. We want some of this music. And so I'll do two of them for you. One of them, and neither one's funny necessarily. They're both just favorites. One of them is standing backstage and watching a legendary entertainer who we all know and we all see and we all know exactly what he looks like, sounds like, acts like, feels like on stage. Standing backstage with them right before they go on stage and watching government named individual turn into stage named individual. Meaning, if you know me as Jason, but I perform as Thunder, whatever, whatever I perform as. And that's obviously a ridiculous name, but most entertainers have a stage name of some kind. When you stand backstage with Jason, and I'm a little tired, I'm not as young as I once was, and my head's maybe bowed a little bit, and my shoulders are slumped a little bit, and I don't move quite the way I used to, and I'm pulling an inhaler to make sure I've got all the lung power I need to get through it. And then I look at the host, who in this case is me. Me as the entertainer, and again, I'm putting myself in their shoes to paint the picture. And I look at the host and say, "Give me 1 second while we're chatting." And I watch a legend, and all of a sudden, I watch them inflate,
Transform.
I watch them transform. I watch them become what the people know and love them as. To this day, it gives me chills. It gives me chills to watch an everyday human standing backstage, roll their shoulders, pull their head up and back, take a few deep breaths, turn around, their voice deepens, they get crisper, they get stronger, like they manifest into that person, they transform, and they shake your hand and it hurts all of a sudden because they're in form. And then they walk out and they kill a crowd for 60, 75 minutes. That to me will never get old. That will never get old. And my personal favorite is I've loved Eddie Levert of the OJs
Sure.
as long as I can remember. Eddie is the definition of cool for me. He's just Eddie, man. He's just Eddie. And when I met Eddie the first time, I was like a little kid. Just, Mr. Levert, I think, hey, man, hey, I'm Eddie, son. Come on, young blood. Come on, young blood. And he's just the nicest man, right? And so when I saw him again a year later, I have zero expectation that anyone will, should, could remember me. I mean, we're talking the world's greatest entertainers that work all over the field. And Eddie Levert came backstage right before the show. And Jason, hey, young blood, how are you, man? Like, how you? And just the way he said it and the way he delivered, I've never it instantly turned me into a 6-year-old. I was just like, oh, it's like Mr. Levert. Like, how can I get you water? What do you need? What do you need? What can I do for you? Like, that is another thing that just doesn't get
Never
old.
gets old.
It just doesn't get old. It never gets old. I'm on a first name basis with some of the greatest artists in history. And I don't take that for granted. And I mean this across all the cruises. I don't take it for granted. I don't take it for granted when there are people out there with his face tattooed on their body.
Yeah.
There's people out there with kids named after him. There's people out there with kids that were created during his music. Whoever he or she is, these are idols. They're absolute icons. I did a wine tasting with, if you remember the group, The Animals, Eric Burden and The Animals, House of the Rising Sun and Spill the Wine and all that. Eric Burden was on our 7th, and he and I sat and did an interview. And then he asked me if I would do the wine tasting with him because he was like, I'm going to be there by myself. Just come do it with me. He's like, we got a good thing. I was like, cool. I went and did a wine tasting with Eric Burden, and he's just the nicest guy. And he's also a rock star. He's someone that his stories are all Jimi Hendrix. His stories are all, the Stones. That it did just this wild time in England of that period.
He did some time with War.
And yeah, absolutely. And that's where Spill the Wine and some of the other music come from. I was just using his name specifically, but yes, absolutely. Lonnie and the guys in War, like he was in War for Eric Burden in War was the thing for a long time. But we did this wine tasting. And we finished wine tasting, and Eric had a show that night, so he wasn't drinking, but he would taste, he would swirl, and then he would spit into a cup, which is not uncommon in wine tasting. And it was gross, and at the same time magic to watch. When it ended, he's like, I took him up the back stairs because he had to go get ready for his show. I watched people rush our table. I watched people drink from his cup. that he was spitting in.
Oh man.
I mean, every piece of silverware he touched, every piece of cheese that he might have nibbled on, his plate, all gone, just gone immediately. People have keepsakes. They drank from the cup that he spit his wine into because that was how they got close to their star. And I'm not judging these people, to be clear. I'm not judging them as fans. It's incredible, the power of some of the individuals and they're superheroes to us in so many ways. Their music is the soundtrack of our lives. They got us through things. They led to things. They helped us through stuff. They gave us power. They gave us marching orders. It's some of the greatest. It's really magic. It's really magic. You don't believe in magic, and then you see it and you go, maybe not what I thought magic was, but that's magic as well. It's never lost on me that I get to stand back there with some of the greatest to ever pick up an instrument or a microphone or talk to an audience. And, I get to know them. I get to chat with them. I get to do interviews. I get to do sit downs. And, I have people in my contacts and my phone. Why do I have these people in my phone? Why do I have these people in my phone? But I can text them and be like, hey man, can't wait to see you next year. Oh, Jason, fantastic interview. Same as last time, never lost on me.
Jason, thank you so much for coming back on the Joy of Cruising podcast, and all the best to you. As I like to say, we will see you on the ocean, and that is absolutely true in our case.
Absolutely, sir. I can't wait.
All right, man. Thank you again. Good luck on your next leg. That starts next month?
Oh no, I leave in 3 days.
Starts imminently, I should say. And then enjoy your summer on the slopes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you, Paul, every time.
The Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted, each $16.99 plus shipping, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again for $18.99, can be ordered at the link on thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com. For each of the 3 books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. The Joy of Cruising books are also available at Amazon. Order the ebook at Amazon or your favorite online retailer. Stay in touch by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or following the Joy of Cruising Podcast on Instagram. We're constantly adding new shows. Please leave a review and tell a friend about us. We hope you enjoyed this brief escape to the ocean. See you next week.